Ladies and gentlemen, I was actually just published in the Jerusalem Post, an opinion piece. Check it out. It's below in the pinned comment. I'll get to that later in this segment. And if you're on social media, I don't have Twitter, I don't have Facebook, but please share it everywhere. I think you'll enjoy it. Type in on Google, airport Kabul. Okay, you will get, Afghanistan airport. You will get the most heart-wrenching scenes. You will get stories that just will make you so frustrated and concerned for the welfare of people there trying desperately to evacuate. And here, that was a newborn baby. CNN reporter reveals dire situation at airport. Photos from a week of chaos and desperation at the Kabul airport. And you have Swiss postpone evacuation flight as security at Kabul airport worsens. You have chaos and mayhem, and it's getting worse every hour. Amid desperation, evacuations pick up pace. I mean, that's the New York Times, Washington Post, Kabul airport chaos, how the Washington Post team escaped the adversary-controlled Afghanistan. By the way, the adversary in that location, in that country that's taken control of the country and also the area immediately outside the airport, they, God forbid, could engage in, I don't even want to talk about what they could do, but it is a situation where President Biden we did not have to leave in the manner we left. We could have simply abided by what Biden did to spite Trump. And this is to spite, and for no other reason than to spite Trump. Ignored a negotiated deal that even the adversaries within that country agreed upon to, in an orderly manner, in a methodical, strategic, efficient manner, withdraw Americans, their families, Afghans who helped us, who deserve to be citizens tomorrow. I want every person from Afghanistan that helped us to become a citizen tomorrow, and their families, and their extended families. You risk your life helping us, you deserve citizenship right away. But the Americans and their families, we have what the other day was 15,000. So why did this happen? It is not Trump's fault. Well, you can look at the Lincoln Project. You could blame Bill Kristol and the Lincoln Project, those people. They got us into 20 years ago this never-ending conflict. It's a counterinsurgency conflict. There's never been a successful counterinsurgency conflict. The French in Vietnam lost before. The French lost in Vietnam, then us, then the Soviets lost in Afghanistan, then us, and we don't learn from history because we have people like the Lincoln Project and Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld, and Kerry, and Biden, and Clinton, who just don't learn from history, and you have a media that's generally always wrong, whether it's WMD or Clinton winning in a landslide or Trump working with Russia. He was an operative of the Kremlin. All of these things are like made-up fantasies. You can look at the Gulf of Tonkin. Before Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld, the intelligence agencies were completely blindsided. You look, we didn't have to have this. This did not have to happen. And you look at Lindsey Graham, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you have Republicans, and even Bob Menendez. He doesn't want to impeach Trump, but he wants to investigate. He doesn't want to impeach Biden, but he wants to investigate Biden. You have Democrats who want to investigate Biden. Biden is now you could say, I guess you could say mashed potato brains is like the senile Andrew Cuomo. Democrats are imploding from the weight of their own corruption and their own inept and incompetent response to serious, serious problems. hit subscribe to this channel right now. I have an op-ed, an opinion piece in the Jerusalem Post. Democrats will turn on Fauci before 2022. Share that everywhere. That's below in the pinned comment. Please go ahead and share that everywhere. I don't have Twitter or Facebook, but I think you'll enjoy it. And talks about a lot of interesting things. And I actually didn't know that it was published, and that was my fault. I didn't follow up, but I pitched the article, and I'm so thankful. I love the Jerusalem Post, and I think you will enjoy the opinion piece. So please share it everywhere. And subscribe to the Jerusalem Post also if you're interested in news from the region and from Israel. But share that op-ed everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. You look at Afghan crowds fleeing as the adversarial force. I don't even want to read what's happening, or what they might be doing, or they might engage in. You have the adversaries in that country that agreed upon a negotiated deal. For this reason, Biden alone should be impeached. The Democratic Party is petulant. They're oftentimes malicious. They don't care about anything but political retribution. You see that Democratic-run states have had the absolute worst outcomes. Highest per capita rates. Go to the New York Times statistics. The top 4 highest per capita rates are still Democratic-run states. Go to the New York Times statistics right now. New York and New Jersey, and God bless the people of New York and New Jersey, have been the epicenter of the crisis around the world, but also look at the foreign policy. Look at the economic policy. Democrats who gleefully tanked their state economies now face an eviction crisis because the eviction moratorium is going to end in about a month or so. So what happens when people are evicted? And then what happens if, God forbid, China invades Taiwan? And then what happens if, God forbid, inflation continues to increase? And gas prices and food prices. And now you have Democrats who are focused on the absolute wrong, the worst. They are focused not on growth, economic growth, or stability around the world. They're focused only on public relations. It was to spite Trump, and that's why he should be impeached. That's why Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lindsey Graham, any Democrats who are courageous enough should impeach this man. He's completely inept, incompetent, irresponsible, and it's not about leaving. We can't just there's a rebuttal. So, we should have left a contingency or a small number of American soldiers there forever. No, that's not the notion that we could use American men and women as chess pieces is that stems from a complete lack of knowledge about what really takes place on the ground. The issue was not that the adversarial group feared our military might, because they already went up against the Soviets and then us for the past 20 years. It's that they hadn't taken the initiative in the past year. So you have this absurd nonsense that, there hasn't been a casualty in a year. We should have simply left Americans there. No, because once that adversarial group took the initiative and decided that they wanted to increase or escalate the conflict, then we would have sent 100,000 Americans in a moment's notice. It's called mission creep. That's why you don't engage in never-ending wars, which Germany and Japan they're not examples of that. That's another ignorant statement. When people say, Germany and Japan, those aren't counterinsurgency conflicts. There are about 30, 40 differences between Germany and Japan and Afghanistan. Major differences that you can go on. And so it's not about leaving. President Trump reversed U.S. foreign policy. And he did so because it was failed foreign policy. We had to reverse it. It had to be reversed. We had to bring home Americans. The manner in which we did the haphazard inefficient, last second, manner in which we disorganized approach. That is the issue, and that was done to spite Trump. Tell me if you've stumbled upon this, if you're a Democrat, if you watched for 10 minutes, a morally superior Democrat. Did you cause all of this because you voted for Biden? Are you going to use the flawed and twisted and warped leap of logic that you utilize against Trump supporters? Everything that happened that you didn't like during Trump's presidency, it's their fault? Is it your fault? Everyone who's suffering now in Afghanistan, is it your fault, Democratic Party, a loyalist voter who voted for Biden? Mashed potato brains. The man should be impeached, and he should be removed. But he's not going to be impeached or removed. He's not going to be impeached until 2022. You already had impeachment with Hunter's emails, which were obvious pay to play. How can you use your influence on behalf of the company? Now the entire country has gone the way of Hunter Biden's life. But see, the thing is, in foreign policy or in economic policy, you can't fake it. You can't simply succeed through immense public relations spin. That's how Biden succeeded. That's how Democrats have propped him up and anointed him. This is what happens when you don't have meritocracy, and it's just public relations, media support, social media algorithms, when you can't talk about the New York Post article, when you can't talk and you can't really critique, and you can't discuss and have a debate about things. You get President Mashed Potato Brains, who is the most inept president we've ever had thus far. He's inept. Trump is not inept. Trump was rude, and he broke the minds and the spirit of liberal Democrats. Is there any point during Trump's presidency than that's worse than at this point right now? There isn't. President Obama presided over more cruelty when it came to certain issues, and I was against separation. I agree that was horrible, absolutely horrendous. Go read the Senate report during President Obama's administration. Worse. And now, so I want to know the scenes taking place in the Kabul airport. And I mean, that's the issue, the human cost, the humanitarian crisis. That's the issue. Babies being, given. This is something you see, you couldn't imagine such a catastrophe in terms of foreign policy. And again, like I said, it's not leaving. It's how we left. We had to leave. It's how we left. And to spite Trump, that's the thing. It was a petulant decision to just do away with the deal. It was petulant. It was just, we don't like Trump. If Trump said, breathe to liberal Democrats, they'd go like this. They'd hold their breath. If Trump said, don't walk off that cliff, they would just run gleefully, jump off the cliff. Because they're programmed to do anything the opposite of Trump. And then CNN is even like, Lindsey Graham wants to impeach now. Why didn't he vote to impeach Trump? Because pressuring Zelensky was a made up. It wasn't even illegal. They didn't even get him on a crime. And the FBI cleared him for January. Then he said, he pressured Zelensky and he caused January. No, he didn't. None of those things could be proven in a court of law because they were both January was a catastrophe. Yes, and it was horrendous. Okay, but what happened there happened all throughout the summer without any condemnation from Democrats. This is the worst point that we've experienced since Jimmy Carter. And even Jimmy Carter, who ushered in 12 years of Republican rule. And by the way, Trump is... The Republicans turned on Trump and investigated a Republican president. Then they wondered why they lost the Senate. And still, with all the media support and social media help and algorithms and everything, Democrats barely have a majority in the House or the Senate. They have the presidency, but who knows what's going on? We don't have any leadership. Trump was a leader. You don't like him? You can't say he was inept. We had record low unemployment. You cannot say the man was incompetent. We had record low unemployment. We had wages that were increasing. We had the Abraham Accords. We had a negotiated peace deal that we could implement to get out of Afghanistan in an organized manner. And simply to do the opposite of what Trump accomplished, this is the chaos and mayhem that we experienced. Biden should be impeached tomorrow. He's one of the worst presidents we've ever had already. Bush, the worst president. George W. Bush, the worst president we've ever had. If you think that Trump was the worst president, you're ignorant of politics. You have no concept of history. Zero. And then you see these historians, oh, yeah, I think Trump was a bit. These people are, they're ideologues. They're not historians. They used to be historians. Then they became ideologues. You cannot say that Trump was the worst president because he received 92% negative media coverage and his offensive social media presence was a detriment to the country. The reaction to Trump was a detriment to the country. Biden is actually a bad president. Trump was the first president to step foot in North Korea, to begin the détente between North and South Korea, and South Korea has told Biden, continue what Trump started. Israel told Biden, continue what Trump started with the Abraham Accords. We had an amazing economy right before you know what happened, and we couldn't even talk about how it happened. So don't say that Trump was incompetent or inept. You could say you don't like him. But there's at no point during Trump's presidency did we experience what we've experienced just within 5 months with Biden. Look what's taking place. Now potentially Taiwan, God forbid, could be invaded or blockaded by China. What would Biden do? There's nothing he could do, actually, especially now. If we had withdrawn in an orderly manner, he could have done something. I'm not saying, WW3, but he could have, like, the international community would have respected us more. When you hear those things, they're laughing at us. No, they're laughing at us now. They weren't laughing at us with Trump. They just didn't like Trump's personality. We were a strong, prosperous country with Trump. We have Jimmy Carter 2.0, who's even worse. And God forbid the adversaries there engage in, that could lead to WW3. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. Please go ahead and share my Jerusalem Post opinion piece everywhere. It's interesting. I wasn't aware it was published. I should have been aware. I should have followed up. But when I pitched the article, anyway, I should have known, but it was published about a couple weeks back. And I just looked right now. I'm like, oh my God. So very, very happy. Please go ahead and share it everywhere. I'm going to start writing a little bit more. And I think you'll enjoy that op-ed in the Jerusalem Post. Democrats will turn on Fauci before 2022. Give me your thoughts below. Share that op-ed everywhere. If you want to support this channel, my super thanks is near the like and the share buttons. And also, if you want to support my work long term, my Patreon is below in the pinned comment. Thanks.